So I'm with Jimmy and Dan Levine today. We finished your transaction, I think. How long ago was it? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
September of 2023.
Okay, God, wow. All right, so you're heading in almost two. So this September 2025 will be 2 years. You both stayed on post transaction. Obviously, great transaction. We've known you for quite some time, Jimmy. I remember meeting you at the Next Star event, and then I had to beat up your kid to get your phone number, start having some conversations. Hey, we got to do what we got to do, right?
Well, years had gone by. The interesting thing is, years went by. I had a deal that didn't get done, and I had I said I met some guy, hiding around a corner with a business card that is a broker. Who is this guy? And then I had you in my phone, and I called you.
Right. And I think I'd spoken with Jacob a couple times, and he's great doing his thing in the space as well.
Right.
And you guys got an incredibly successful business. So I think for starters, listen, your brothers working together, that's definitely an interesting mix. We've done a couple transactions where brothers have worked together, and as long as I guess if everybody stays in their lane, it's good. But I'm sure it can't be the easiest. How have you guys been able to make it work together?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. We stay in our lane. We both came into the business, while it's family a little bit differently. Jimmy's on the technical side. I'm on the business side of the business. And, we have that communication that only families can have, can communicate a different way, right? But there's trust. I trust what he does on the technical side, and he trusts what I do on the finance side. And it
And
just
how long have you had the business together? How long have the two of you been working together with this business?
20, about 25 years.
I'm 15. Yeah, figure 25, 30 years.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Dan did.
Because I came back right before 2000 back into the business.
Okay.
So a good 25 years to answer the question.
Amazing. Amazing. And then you talked about a failed transaction before you reach back out to us. I don't need to get into the details of it. It happens quite often. I'm going to assume it was a one-off transaction. Somebody wanted to put a deal together, right?
Yeah, a friend of mine partnered with his group, we'll leave unnamed. They had acquired some companies. They were the biggest in our region. And we thought they were mainly HVAC, and we do the majority at that time plumbing. We've blown up HVAC as of recent. But plumbing and drains, I would feed off them. The CEO seemed cool. Everything was great, except when we were on the 1 yard line about to punch it in the end zone, the money dried up and they couldn't honor the LOI. So it was disappointing with the time, the expense, and all that. So kind of the wind was out of our sails. And actually, when I called you, it kind of made it okay. And I'm not just saying that. I'm like, wow, man, these guys know what they're doing. So I said, Dan, let's talk to this broker. And at first you're like, well, I'll do it myself. Why am I going to pay the broker their percent? I can just do it myself. But it was so much smoother with you guys and Darcy and the accounting and how you go to market and just the partners. We had we whittled down to 3 great companies. And I'm glad we picked who we picked, but we couldn't have done that by ourselves.
It becomes a second or third job full time, right? Going through this, and the more people, reading more partners or buyers that you have in the mix, it broadens it that much more. You've got all this information needs to go back and forth in all these different ways, and it's hard. You got to focus on your business, right? Deals are done on trailing 12 months of EBITDA. So you either focus on your business, you're focused on getting a deal done. It's kind of hard to be able to go ahead and handle both at the same time. And to your point, listen, if you know what you're good at, right? You're good at your business. We're good at our business. Healthy respect for each other. Let us go do what we got to do. Let us see if we can fetch you a number. What was going to be the worst case scenario? We weren't going to accomplish your goal, right? Okay. Would have been time for both of us, but go ahead.
There's no handcuffs. We do plumbing, heating, air, and drains. We have no idea on mergers and acquisitions and selling a business. That's where you guys come in. So you streamline it and you've just been through it. Ben, Justin, Darcy, the whole staff was just unbelievable. They just walk you through it.
Yep.
Yeah, and the other thing is you guys bring to the table, you're sourcing, think of it like, we're a plumbing company and we come into your house. We're going to source the best products for you, for what you need, for your budget, for the needs of your home and your family. And we can put you into the right products. And that's what you guys did. You found the partners that would match well with our business size, our business type, how we wanted to operate in the future going forward. And you matched us with it ended up being 3 that we whittled it down to, but very compatible partners. And we couldn't have done that on our own.
Well, we appreciate that. And they gave you options, right?
Oh.
When I talk to folks all the time and I say, there's a thing called a competitive bidding process. When you're only having a conversation with one buyer, there is no competitive bidding process. He's going to kind of tell you where it needs to be. You're going to say where you need to be. There's going to be some negotiation and away you go. When you've got multiple offers sitting in front of you and you like the chemistry fit, you give yourself leverage to be able to move these back and forth, obviously for your best outcome. And now here we are, September, which would be, if it's another 5-6 months off, you'll be at the 2-year mark with your partner post-transaction. And from everything you've said, you couldn't be happier with who you chose.
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay. Well, that's the important thing. So here's a pretty deep question, because we hear this all the time. What happened to all of your people once they found out, hey, oh my God, we partnered, the guys have done a deal. What, give me an idea of all the folks that you had working for you. What was some of the feedback that you got?
The initial feedback or right now?
Sure. All from now, give me an idea.
Well, the initial feedback was fear and anxiety. They hear the word private equity, it scares them. All they know is, Gordon Gekko from Wall Street. And in as much as we could tell them, hey, trust us, we're doing this with you guys in mind, we still had to prove it. So the most important payroll was getting the next week's payroll accurate and in time. And guess what? I'm doing the same work in the same truck with the same customers, and I got paid. Like, it's just seamless. So that
Right.
was such a critical step with our partner. And once you get weeks turn into months turn into now a year and a half later, it's an afterthought. It really is. And, we didn't lose anyone because of the transaction.
Perfect. Obviously happy to hear that. That's an easy one.
I don't feel like I'm an owner. We like to call it's a partnership. We have new partners. It's the same game, bigger playground. So there's
Yep.
more opportunities for the people that helped us get to where we are. So it's just a win-win. And then the lift with the benefits and everything, like there's no walking. At first, it's an initial shock. Like we didn't slow roll it due to the advice, that we had. And you guys know how to roll out. And it's our company, Sela, was great. We had a contractor that had partnered a year before in Chicago. He came in, one of the owners, and the Sela guys were there. And I think there was an SF&P person on the rollout. And at first, it was great. I thought it was high energy. And I'm like, Dan, that was awesome, man. I thought there'd be a little pushback because I just had 2 people crying in my office. We had employees saying, you're better to me than my own family now. Now I got to report to some suit from Philadelphia, some private equity guy. And, we explained that we're not going anywhere. Do you think they want to come to Southfield, Michigan to run a plumbing, heating, air company? That's why they partnered with us. They're not going to buy, like Dan said, Gordon Gekko. You think they're going to buy our company, part it out and sell it for scrap value? There's no way. They just like what we've done. And it's just going to be, they're giving us rocket fuel to grow. And we've grown HVAC in the last year and a half, like 40%.
HVAC's up 100%, our underground's up 120. And
From inception. from the merger.
Yeah,
the
from
partnership.
deal closed to
Yeah.
now.
It's so, and by the way, and thank you for the transparency, because these are questions that come up from owners. Oh, my people, they're going to freak out. You know, one of the things I say is, listen, if your people leave once they find out a transaction has been done, chances are they probably need to be fired before. You know, they were some game was being played that they realized that they were going to get called out on. But I love the fact that you guys have had the growth, right? You appreciate, understand the business piece of that, because there's just so many more opportunities. And then I want to get your thoughts on this. I talk with, you know, a lot of owners post transaction. One of the things they say is, man, it's just easier to swing at the ball now. Like, okay, if we miss, we miss. We've got a partner. It's got our back to help us out. Like we're running these things by on these ideas that we have for growth. And nicely said, it's not my checkbook. Like I'm not making decisions, you know, with my book anymore. It gives me the ability to run a business a lot differently.
Well,
What do you think about that?
You're absolutely right. I was going to bring that point up. We manage differently. We think differently, and not in a bad way. Not like that's not my checkbook. I don't care. We're a little bit more aggressive. And I look back and frankly kick myself a little bit. Like, boy, was I too conservative? You know, when it's your own money and
Yeah.
the decisions you're making and how is this going to affect the population? Not that we're ever in a position to not make payroll, but when I used to think about, are we going to buy new trucks, finance them? It was very much with everybody's interests in mind that we've helped build the company to the level it's at. And now it's such a strong financial partner supporting us. They want us to grow. And they're like, great, just go do it. That's awesome. How can we support you in that? And we take best practices from all the other partner companies. It's fantastic.
And without the introduction from you guys, like our partner, Sela, we run the business. Like I said, I feel like I still own it, but it's like, how can we help you? No one's coming in micromanaging every move. You know, why did you buy a case of Diet Pepsi last month? That's a person. Like nobody's doing any of that. Just like run your business, you know? And how can we help? And there's great feedback and we get paid. It's really interesting because you're running by the numbers and it's pace reports with the other brands. So it's like your own mini Nexstar group.
Right.
You know what everyone's doing, and then Dan just got off a marketing call, and there's just we just left. We were in Buffalo for a regional meeting with all the regional, and it's just great. You're with the guys cross. It's just like Nexstar, your own private Nexstar group. Great sharing, and
I mean, it's like Nexstar without the skeletons in the closet that they all try to hide, in the peer group meetings.
Sure.
There's no secrets and there's no shame. If you're struggling in an area, you just put it out and everyone wants to help. But,
Well, they're your partners, right?
right. Going back to sort of that management, like Jimmy was saying, they allow operators to operate, right? They know where they add value and support, which is a lot of the back end stuff, the stuff that takes away from driving business at the local level. So they try to take that headache off, but not, being new to the relationship, I used to call the GM there like all the time, like just asking these questions. And finally he said, look, I understand why you're asking them, but you're asking these questions because they're good for the business, right? And I'm like, you're asking for permission. And I said, yeah, exactly. He said, don't call, just do it. If it's good for the business, just do it. We've seen what you guys have done. Take care of it. And it wasn't like because I was annoying him. It's just him letting those reins free.
Right. You were respecting the relationship to make sure there was good back and forth before. Yeah,
exactly.
I totally understand.
It's been almost 2 years later.
like literally, I don't ask permission. At the beginning, you don't know what to expect.
Sure.
Run the business. I mean, I'm
Sure.
sure if we started showing red, it would be a problem. There'd be a conversation, but just run it. Want to buy a new excavator? Buy it. I need a new truck? Buy it. Want to rebrand the logo? Just Just run your business.
What you're saying, by the way, that's another point that comes up, and I'm thrilled that you did that. I don't want a partner. I don't want to answer to a partner. I don't want to, I don't want to, I became a business owner, become a business owner. As a business owner, you grow your business to a certain size and you realize, man, if I want to get to another level, right? Protect my people, like do all these great things, sometimes a partnership could be a really good move. So you've now grown the business, you said almost 100%. Is that correct? Since the partnership on both sides?
Oh, yeah.
So for your employees now post-transaction, I'm sure there's been a slew of benefits. Do you know a couple of them off the top of your head? Some of the better, the advantages now of this relationship that they're experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the obvious, better healthcare, long-term disability, short-term disability, the 401k, outside of sort of those obvious, there's incredible, they see a path and a future with us. They don't have to wait for, the guy above them to retire or quit or, die, right? Because we're growing, all of a sudden now we have needs for people and they can follow their passion or skills. Not that everybody should get out of the truck, but if that's what you want to do, there's an opportunity for it. And that's exactly what we wanted in the partnership, to grow the opportunities for our people.
Yeah, I'm happy you said that. And you guys, just for the record, without giving away too much, you had a very successful business. So I hope that anybody that's listening to this realizes here was an incredibly successful business, right? That you get another economies of scale when you partner up with somebody that's a, $500 million, $750 million, $1 billion plus portfolio that trickles down to your employees on a big way. It's funny. I was having a call about this even before I hopped on with you guys on a deal that we did out west, and the general manager became, he moved up to this big regional position, and guys that were in management position, other positions were able to get management positions. Like anybody that stepped up that was doing great had expanded opportunities that just weren't available for them from before. So I'm thrilled that you guys were able to see all this and obviously check the egos and say, okay, what's good for everybody is good for us, right? There's a saying that your employees are really your first customers, right? And if they're happy, kind of everybody's going to be happy, right?
No, you're absolutely right. And yeah, you said it, the benefits trickle down to them. In our case, they flooded down to them. It was very rapid and it's been great.
So the same couple people that were crying in the beginning, right?
Well,
Had
now, funny, Jimmy was talking about this meeting in Buffalo. The CEO of the whole organization was there, and he referenced one of our people because he was there when the announcement happened. She was in tears, very fearful, and he told the story how he was talking to her in the office, trying to, just understand what the apprehension was. And she just got back from a corporate wide, it's called the President's Award trip, where she was recognized across one of the top performers of the whole brand.
She's in accounting, bookkeeping, and she's helping regionally other brands. So she's more than Levine and Son. She's helping Sela corporate out as a whole. And it's a good feeling, and they take care of her. And they were in St. John's or St. Kitts, wherever they were. I wasn't invited. And instead of all the salespeople and the managers and the bigwigs, just who makes the business run? Erin's great. She's helping out Lynn, the financial controller for our region. Let's send Erin. She gets it done. Warehouse guy went. It's important the partner you partnered with. In our top three, we're all great through your introduction.
Well, I'm happy. Obviously, it turned out for the best, and I couldn't agree with you more. When we talk with folks, there's two parts of this equation, right? How much are they giving you, and what's the chemistry fit, right? So you have to make a decision as an owner. What's most important to you? Is it the chemistry fit or is it the money? And let's figure these things out. There's somewhere in the middle. There's going to be a balance between those two, and then that's usually what gets a deal done. But if you don't have enough of these conversations to really get an idea of what's going on out there, I don't know how you're making a decision on probably the biggest deal you're going to do, one of the biggest deals you're going to do in your life. When I talk with owners all the time, like, okay, you got one offer. Well, how are you doing a deal? Who else have you spoken to? Just to see what else is available and or out there. It'd be like selling a piece of real estate, somebody coming down the street and saying, hey, here's an offer. If you don't have other offers, you don't even know if the one you're getting is any good or not. You know what I mean? I mean, listen, by working with us, and I'll give us a quick plug, it keeps everybody accountable, right? Keeps all those buyers accountable. Can't play games. There's not going to be any BS. We've done hundreds of these deals. We're protecting you. You guys have the confidence in us knowing that you're going to be protected. So it enables you to fire away too. Ask the questions, get a little bit bold with some of the things that you want. We're going to ask for all of it. So obviously thrilled the way it played out. A question I want to ask is, now that you're on the other side of this, right? Year and a half passed, what advice would you give to any owner that's contemplating heading in this direction? Hey, maybe they're a year, maybe 2 out from selling, maybe even 3 out, but it's on their radar that they want to make a transaction or a partnership happen. What advice would you give out for them or to them?
Well, my advice, like last week, I sent you the contact for that local friendly competitor of mine that wants to go to market. And she had an attorney that doesn't do, I don't know why she hooked up with an attorney. I said, just call Brian at SF&P. And I think her numbers need to grow. I said, reach out to him. They work with companies all the time. You may not be ready now, but after 2 years, they're going to coach you on what it's going to take to maximize what you're going to get for. You need someone to guide you.
Yep.
You're not going to go on YouTube and do a YouTube video. Brian, so I don't know what happened with the conversation, but you've coached a lot of people along, right? From that aren't ready, right?
Of course.
It said, look, if you want to do this, you need to work on this, and let's go to market maybe in 2 years or a year. You get with Darcy. I mean, you're looking at a relationship. If now's not the right time, 2 years from now, right?
Well, right. You can never hurt. You're never going to get hurt calling me too early. The only time it's an issue is when that owner wakes up and says, I'm done. I want to make a deal happen now. Then I get a call that says, I've been ripping my hair out now for a couple months. My wife says, hey, maybe it's time to look to figure out what an exit looks like. And I'm like, and he goes, and I've been hearing about you for years. And I'm like, and I wish you would have called me years ago. No big deal. Let's get an idea where some things are at. We cross our fingers that all the numbers add up the way they need to add up. And if that happens, we can make something happen. But if it doesn't, listen, at least we know the owner has a strategy now in place, right? We have EBITDA. What do your next number of months look like? Let's see a comp out. Let's put some stuff together to go ahead and make what's going to be a definition of a successful transaction for you.
And if there's any apprehension, at first like, well, what do I need a broker? Why am I going to pay them their percent? We got actually more money after paying your percent than we did with our first deal, and ended up with a great partner. So I think it would be foolish. And an advisor of mine who's very sharp said, you're nuts not to have a broker. You always got to have a broker.
I
agree. True with this.
If you've never done a transaction in your life on this size and scale, understanding the magnitude and importance of it is to you, your family, and your employees, I don't know how you just don't reach out and say, let's at least have an initial conversation, get an idea of what's going on. And by the way, there's plenty of people that handle their own transactions. I hear about them afterwards. They all say the same thing. Now that I've gone through it, I wish I would have called you from before. I probably left money on the table. I probably left a lot on the table. So shame on me for doing it. So, conversation is free, but not about us. It's more about you guys. Dan, anything that you would recommend?
No, absolutely. I would, the first thing is really sit down, think about, why you're doing it, what you want out of it. Some people want to sell and be done with the business. That could be one type of partner. Some people want to stay and operate. That could be a different. The money and sort of the fit are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but there is a balance, and I would really err towards the fit. Obviously, there's going to be the financial component, but the fit is so critical to the success in your future happiness going forward. And if you're doing it with your people in mind, your family in mind, all that, it's just critical. So really just spend some time. I don't want to be dramatic, soul searching, but why are we doing this? And what do we want out of it? And then that, when you go to market sort of with that mentality, you can really A, articulate it, and B, get the right partner for whatever situation you're looking for.
Yeah, and Dan, I'm happy you said chemistry fit again. And just to reiterate, it's a sliding scale, right? I mean, listen, you could love the chemistry fit, love it to death, but if they're so far removed financially, I could love you till the cows come home, but it ain't gonna work. So it's nice when those are close enough to where they're all in the same line.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes for an absolutely for a great scenario. Um, as we kind of wrap this up, by the way, I'm going to put you guys on the spot and I apologize about this. Is it okay that I put your phone numbers in the email and the information we're going to send out for any business owner that has any questions, that may want to have a deeper conversation about some of the stuff you guys discuss? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Anytime, just reach out.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. And then in wrapping this up, is there one last thing that you would say? Now, again, you're a year and a half past, very successful outcome. People are happy. You guys got smile on your faces. You still have hair on your head and everything else that's positive, except you can't put the boat, really get on the boat yet, Jimmy. Sorry.
Hey,
That'll happen soon.
too cold.
Anything else that you want to add on to this?
How great you are. If
Oh,
I
you were.
ever met you, you changed my life. No, I mean, I think we,
You're happy I was a nightmare and called your kid as well?
yeah, right.
Geared up over here.
No, I mean, it's just, things happen for a reason and, I don't know. I'm just happy where we are today. I'm happy for our employees, our customers, for myself. I think we covered everything. I would not go it alone. Feel free to call me at any time. I'll tell you my experience and, what it was like before, what happened, what it's like now, and, call me 24/7. I'd be happy to talk. Dan?
Yeah, you only get one opportunity to sell the business that you've worked your entire life building. Take the time, respect it enough, respect the process enough, get the information, talk to people who've been through it, talk to people like you, that have done hundreds of deals, even if it's just to gather information, because information's power, knowledge is power, and you'll make a better deal going forward by getting help.
And one other thing, I remember when we were starting with you guys and going through, the diligence and all that stuff, but, there were like, I think 3 different things that just popped up, like, damn, we never thought about that. Like, we were on the 99-yard line about to punch it in the end zone, and we didn't take these 3 pieces. They were huge pieces. You know what you're doing. You're the professionals. We had no idea, and we were better off with you. I mean, I was like, damn, we never even, and that ended up, those 3 things that you pointed out were more money in our pocket,
Right.
more value to the business. But that's why you leave it to the professionals.